Hello, my name is Peggy Reeves. I am the Connecticut Director of Elections under Secretary of the State Denise Merrill. In the 2011 municipal election, the statewide voter turnout among registered voters was 30.67%. The lowest voter turnout generally occurs in municipal election years. In that election, 9% of our state's population was between the ages of 18 and 24. Yet they represented only 2.7% of voters. During the 2012 Republican presidential primary, only 14.4% of registered Republican voters turned out to vote statewide. That figure represents the lowest voter turnout for a presidential preference primary in Connecticut since the current system was first established for the 1980 presidential election, and a sharp drop from the 2008 turnout figure for Republicans of 36.7%. We would expect the turnout for the August primary to be low, given that it is in the middle of August and there are not many offices on the ballot, probably no more than a 25 to 30% turnout. In presidential election years, voters generally turn out at the highest rates, and this November should be no exception. One thing to watch will be whether this year's turnout is able to top the historically high turnout in 2008. I would like to speak about how the Help America Vote Act, HAVA, improved the quality of American election administration by making the voting process more secure, accurate, reliable, and accessible in the United States, including our state of Connecticut. After the series of issues surrounding the 2000 presidential election, including the use of punch cards with hanging chad, the infamous butterfly ballot design which may have led to widespread voter confusion, and the purging of thousands of citizens from the voter list who were designated as felons but were in fact eligible to vote, the United States was forced to face an unfortunate truth about the American voting system. It was a patchwork of laws varying state by state with no standards for voting systems, voter registration lists, poll worker training, and voters' Bill of Rights. In hopes of resolving these issues, Connecticut Senator Christopher Dodd authored a bill entitled the Help America Vote Act, which was passed by Congress and signed into law by President George W. Bush on October 29, 2002. The goal of HAVA was and is to ensure to all American citizens that their votes count and to restore faith in the legitimacy of our elected government. Voting is a fundamental right to the people of our nation, and the federal government decided that they needed to set a standard for state voting systems. The law provided funding to help states meet the new standards, including the transition from lever to optical scan voting machines, the establishment of a centralized statewide voter registration system, proper training for all poll workers, and new methods of increasing voter registration and education. As a result of the act, $3.9 billion of federal funding was appropriated to HAVA, which was available for all states who were updating their voting systems to meet the new requirements. Connecticut received $32.7 million. To make these funds accessible to states updating their systems, HAVA established the Elections Assistance Commission. Additionally, the Elections Assistance Commission was responsible for researching matters related to elections, developing a method for testing election systems throughout the country, creating a national voter registration form, developing best practices for the states, and creating annual progress reports for Congress. In addition to updating voting technology, HAVA improved the provisional ballot system by allowing persons who for some reason are identified as ineligible to vote, but who believe they are registered, to cast a provisional ballot which may be counted up to 6 days later if the municipality determines the voter is indeed eligible to vote. With such requirements in place, Connecticut's Office of the Secretary of State took many precautions to ensure that the implementation of new standards was a smooth transition. To verify the state's selection of purchasing optical scan machines, the University of Connecticut conducted several studies on voting methodology and technology, which led to the creation of the Center for Voting Technology Research at the University of Connecticut. The Secretary of the State selected 25 towns to utilize recommendations made by the Voting Technology and Research Center in the 2006 pilot project. After the system proved to be effective, all 169 municipalities in the state of Connecticut implemented the HAVA requirements in the elections of November 2007. In efforts to continue to confirm the legitimacy of the voting system, towns chosen by random selection are required to participate in a hand-counted audit. In addition to the security of correctly counted ballots, Several initiatives were made to increase the number of registered voters in Connecticut. Voters with disabilities who are unable to use an optical scan machine are able to use a touch-tone telephone at the polls. A voice on the phone guides voters through each line of the ballot, and the voter hits a number to make a selection. A paper ballot is then faxed to the voter for verification. Such changes were needed in Connecticut. For too long, Connecticut was a state of steady habits, and it was time that we step into the 21st century. There is no doubt in my mind that the Help America Vote Act was a step in the right direction. Before HAVA, the election process was left to the responsibility of each individual state and local governments. The Act centralized the voting system between all 50 states with necessary federal intervention. The most important element of HAVA is its purpose, to ensure the legitimacy of the voting system. It has been stated that it is one of the most important pieces of legislation since the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Voting is a fundamental right, and we continue to strive to protect those rights for the citizens of the state.